The National Desk, America's News, now.
Shaking up the race to the White House. New details on primary dates, plus how a third-party candidate could impact the vote. Little learners facing big problems. Why schools are having a hard time finding early childhood educators. And later, balancing the benefits. The Fact Check team investigates the effectiveness of telehealth visits and if they save you money. From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for being here with us. On this Weekend Edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week and we look ahead at what to expect. Starting with the four big stories we've been following this week. Buyer beware. How to protect yourself from online shopping scams on the rise as the holiday season gets underway. A change in crossings at the southern border. What's behind a drop in unlawful entries revealed in new October border numbers. Protecting kids online. A rise in deepfakes is impacting teens. What experts say needs to be done to curb the trend. But we begin with the Israel-Hamas war as tensions in the Middle East threaten to escalate to other parts of the world. A growing number of Americans believe Israel has gone too far in its response to Hamas's October 7th terrorist attack. A new NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll finds 38% of Americans think Israel's response is excessive, up 12% from a month ago. But the same amount say the response is about right. Just 17% believe it's not enough and 6% are unsure. The Israel-Hamas war and related tensions are raising the risk of attacks here in the U.S. The FBI director issued some alarming warnings this week on Capitol Hill. The National Desk chief political correspondent Scott Thuman reports.
The war in the Middle East and America's partnership with Israel making the U.S. a top target for attacks, according to top intelligence officials testifying before Congress Wednesday.
On top of the so-called lone actor threat, we cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil.
The FBI director says America faces increased threats from a rogues gallery of groups: Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS.
Given that disturbing history, we are keeping a close eye on what impact recent events may have.
The Arabs told them they would shoot the hostages.
A history outlined in this recent report by Full Measure, showing decades of attacks on Americans and U.S. interests. Few more devastating than in 1983, when it's believed Hezbollah organized suicide bombings against American troops in Beirut, killing 241 Americans. And of course, Al-Qaeda's devastating attack on 9/11. Now the FBI reveals there are also multiple investigations of Hamas members, perhaps plotting more.
Hezbollah and Hamas are both committed to the destruction of Israel. They are both very close to Iran. Hezbollah is a Shia militant organization. Iran is a Shia country. Hamas is Sunni, a different sect in Islam, but they're happy to work together on their shared goal of destroying Israel and opposing the U.S. presence.
While here at home, houses of worship, college campuses, and large gatherings now seeing added protection. FBI Director Wray says while Americans should be alert, this is not a time for panic and that agents are working with urgency and purpose to confront these threats. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman for the National Desk. Back to you.
Looking ahead to 2024, New Hampshire's Secretary of State has scheduled both of its presidential primaries for January 23rd, keeping up the state's centuries-old streak of going first despite Democrats' efforts to delay the vote. The only official presidential contest between that is the Iowa caucuses on January 15th, but Democrats won't release their results immediately. Super Tuesday is March 5th, with the last primaries all the way out on June 4th. October saw the number of unlawful border crossings fall after a 3-month climb. The latest official numbers show 188,000 people were apprehended at the border last month. September's 218,000 was the second highest monthly arrest total on record. The earlier bump in migrant encounters before October's drop is in part attributed to an adjustment period during which some migrants may have been unaware of new asylum regulations introduced in May. The nationwide teacher shortage is not only impacting K through 12 education, but also preschool. The National Desk's Angelo Brown explains.
Parents are trying to give their kids a leg up by enrolling them in preschool. The only problem, there's a shortage of preschool teachers, and many of those kids, we're talking 3 to 5, are just waiting on the wait list.
Another headache for parents, long waiting lists to get their kids into preschool.
In the development of a child, we're losing the most qualified people.
Linda Smith from the Bipartisan Policy Center calls the shortage of early childhood teachers severe.
The programs just simply can't pay the wages and compete.
Take the Genesee Intermediate School District in Michigan. Not enough teachers to fill preschool teaching positions, creating wait lists for kids. Eddie Kendall, GISD.
We have about maybe 40 lead teacher opportunities in Genesee Intermediate School District.
Smith says the problem? Funding.
Most of early childhood programs are what we call for-profit or market-based.
Which means some preschool programs have to generate enough cash to cover staff.
We need stable funding in early childhood and childcare in particular.
RAND estimates as of 2019, 53% of 4-year-old children living in poverty were enrolled in preschool, compared with 76% of their counterparts with a family income at $125,000. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Keeping an eye on your money, buyer beware. Amazon says scams are on the rise as the holiday season nears. Specifically, the online retailer is warning of an increase in 2 types of scams. One involves fake emails from Amazon suggesting a user's account will be suspended if they don't take action. These scams include a link asking for members' login and payment information, which is then stolen. The other targets Amazon Prime members. Scammers call, text, and email members about fake membership fees or account issues. They then ask customers to confirm or cancel a charge by providing payment details. To avoid falling victim to these scams, look out for any email or call asking for payment to resolve an alleged account issue. Amazon says it will never ask members to pay in that type of situation. Being asked to pay with gift cards is also a red flag. Scammers will often ask this because card details are easy to share, easy to redeem, and hard to trace.
Telehealth has become increasingly popular since the COVID-19 pandemic. A study shows a telehealth visit could save a patient up to an average of $186 per visit. And with Janae from the Fact Check team, telehealth visits can save time, can save money, but how effective are they compared to in-person visits? What are the facts?
Well, Eugene, new research shows telehealth may be just as effective as in-person visits. An Annals of Internal Medicine study shows more than 85% of the telehealth visits they looked at did not need the patient to come back for another visit. Now, the study found that video and telephone medicine can address a person's concerns similar to in-office visits. It does vary by specific clinical conditions.
Sure.
Though.
Now, are there any disadvantages that people should be aware of?
Right. So according to a government study, privacy, security, and a lack of access to the internet are issues with telehealth for some patients. And Eugene, of course, there are physical limitations. For example, a patient's blood can't be checked from home, and doctors can't feel for swollen lymph nodes or clearly look at someone's throat.
But it's still a good solution for some people out there. Janae, thanks. And for more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to Janae's sources, you want to scan the QR code on your screen or visit us online at thenationaldesk.com.
Ahead on the National Desk, America's News Now. Detecting deepfakes, the disturbing trend putting kids and teens at risk. What one expert says Congress needs to do to regulate the images. Developing now, a federal judge has ruled the companies that own YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Snap must face hundreds of lawsuits blaming them for teenagers' social media addiction. The companies tried to dismiss the suits, claiming immunity from harm caused by user-generated content. But the suit alleges the platform's algorithms and other actions are to blame for hooking users, and the judge ruled those are not shielded from federal law. Right now, prosecutors in all 50 states are urging Congress to study how artificial intelligence can be used to exploit children through pornography. The National Desk, Jan Jeffcoat, has more with Carl Szabo, Vice President.
And photos created by AR right now are rampant. It is ruining the lives of teens, as we know. Are existing laws sufficient enough to go after offenders?
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. This is visual slander. This is cruel. This is harassment, and it should be stopped. Period. We need to make sure we go after the bad actors. Now, there are existing laws to address many of these challenges, like, as I mentioned, harassment law, fraud, defamation, impersonation. But at the same time, there may be gaps that need to be filled, and these can be done. NetChoice, my company, is pushing for two pieces of legislation, one to address it on child sexual abuse material, the other to address what are called non-consensual intimate images, all created with AI. But at the same time, this needs to be a holistic approach. Workplaces, teachers, principals, schools, everyone can be engaged, everyone can take action, because if they're creating a harassing or dangerous environment in a school or in a workplace, those bad actors need to be let go, and we need to address it at its root with the bad actors, because at the end of the day, this is harassment.
It is. So what can you do, though, if this happens to you or your child? It is impossible to remove anything from the internet, and when you do, there are 100 other places that can recreate it.
Yeah, the first thing to do is to notify the services where it's happening. A lot of the platforms, Facebook just announced the other day a partnership with something called the Lantern program, where you can actually flag content and they will send it out to all the other platforms out there, so that if it does pop up again, it can actually be blocked before anyone actually sees it. So they can put a digital fingerprint on it and make sure that content doesn't show up. So that's the first thing to do. The next is to notify the school, notify teachers, counselors, principals, so that if there are other students who are sending this around, or the, in fact, perpetrator, we can actually engage, have those conversations, and hold the bad actors accountable. And if you're an adult, talk to your boss, talk to your supervisor. And if it's somebody at your workplace, that person should be terminated because they are creating a hostile work environment.
When I first looked at this, I was looking at some cases, and I found this very shocking that you initially might think this is child pornography, but those laws only apply to real images, which is where this gets very twisted and disturbing when you consider AI is essentially fake images. How do we fix this? How do we fill some of the gaps of those laws?
Yeah, this is an example where really bad actors, like the really, really scum of the earth, are using the letter of the law to escape the purpose of the law. Unfortunately, most of our laws addressing nude photos of children require it to be an actual photo. So what we're seeing is bad actors are using AI to kind of alter the photo a little bit, and then the law just doesn't apply. So we are at NetChoice pushing forward legislation to update and fill those gaps that you outlined, to make it clear that you can't just use AI to skirt the law when it's child sexual abuse material, because at the end of the day, child sexual abuse material should be prosecuted, whether it's AI created or not.
You mentioned schools should also be required to take action. I know there's been some laws that have been passed in Florida and Virginia. What have those states implemented, and how can schools help with enforcement?
Yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes to teens, kids, as much as a parent, I like to think that my kids listen to me. They certainly listen to their teachers much more than they listen to me. They listen to their coaches, and they listen to the schools and their classmates. So Florida and Texas have enacted laws, Florida and Virginia have enacted laws that basically require digital wellness as part of the course curriculum, so that we can actually have conversations with teens and meet them where they are, rather than hope that they'll figure it out on their own. So it's an important step to begin having those conversations in the classroom. I'm not going to say that's going to solve all our problems, but it is a useful first step. And simultaneously, that information is being made available to parents so that we ourselves can learn how to be better digital citizens.
And as you said, there should be some consequences, maybe cut from a sports team, or maybe suspension if a student is caught doing this to another student.
Absolutely. I mean, let's think about the offline world. If somebody were to harass a fellow student, you would be called into the principal's office, you would be suspended, you would be expelled, you would lose privileges. The same thing needs to be true if it happens on the virtual space. So schools are a great opportunity where we can actually meet it where it matters. And similarly, for the people in the workplace, in the adult world, we can talk to our bosses and they can actually bring actions against bad employees as well.
Vice President and General Counsel for Net Choice, Carl Szabo, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
Same to you.
Road rage. A victim recalls his near-death experience after a simple road trip turned into a living nightmare. Plus, record-breaking bust. Why police in Oklahoma believe their latest crackdown will lead to less drugs on streets all across the country. The National Desk team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America, from a record-breaking drug bust in Oklahoma to Georgia store owners fed up with out-of-control crime. We're taking the pulse of America, but we start in Florida, where a road rage victim recalls his near-death experience.
I was just screaming, help, help, help.
Kevin Kimbugwe, a Lyft driver, testified about the horrific attack he suffered in Boynton Beach on Seacrest Boulevard in September 2021. He was giving two women a ride from the Hard Rock Casino to Boynton Beach when his car collided with a man on a motorcycle, Michael Radler, and then his car hit a tree. Kimbugwe says he got out of his car to see if Radler was okay, and seconds later he says Radler started stabbing him.
Next thing I know, I'm just, fighting for my life.
The jury was shown graphic photos of Kimbugwe's injuries. Some photos are too disturbing to show on the air. Kimbugwe testified he was on the phone with a 911 dispatcher while he was being stabbed.
Where's the address where you are?
Help me.
Okay, I need your address.
Help me, I don't know.
So he gave empty piece of paper saying that he wanted to cash a check, and then he gave it to the cashier. The cashier told him, no, we can cash it, and he was about to pull out his gun. So the cashier went in the office, and the other cashier already saw this incident in the camera, so he started calling the police.
The cashiers had locked the doors to the back so the robber couldn't come in. Staff said he climbed through the window and grabbed whatever cash he could before running off. Both the cashier and owner said this was similar to a robbery just 2 months ago.
He saw somebody working around the business and recognized it's the same guy that robbed us 2 months ago. So he was already on the phone call before the guy started to rob us.
The man was already gone before police arrived. The owners said that from both robberies, the suspect stole a combined total around $25,000.
We rolled up, went in, served our search warrant. Nobody there. Barn was unsecure. When we walked around to the front of the barn, there wasn't even a door on the end of it. And I looked in there and I went, that's a lot of marijuana.
According to the Attorney General's office, it is 74,000 pounds of marijuana to be exact. And the Wagner County Sheriff's Office was contacted by the Attorney General's new task force to send a warrant. They seized so much marijuana that they had to get help hauling it out.
We all worked together. They brought out equipment, 2 dump trucks, a semi-in-dump trailer, and we started pulling them up there and using loaders and excavators.
Sheriff Elliott says in his 35 years of law enforcement, he has never seen that amount of marijuana in one location. According to the Attorney General's office, street value for this marijuana is roughly $75 million.
And ahead here on the National Desk, cancer drugs are in short supply across the nation. How one mom is making a difference tracking down life-saving medications after her daughter was impacted. Spotlight on America has been reporting on a crisis in the cancer community. Chemotherapy drugs are in short supply with life and death consequences for adult patients. Now we're shedding light on a devastating new layer, the impact on thousands of children diagnosed with cancer in the U.S. each year. Most kids can be cured, but as Lisa Fletcher discovered, it depends on a carefully constructed regimen of life-saving drugs, which can be difficult or impossible to find.
Any patient being told the words that my 9-year-old had to hear is not okay.
Those words were out of the chemo drug that could save your life. Laura Bray and her daughter Abby, diagnosed with leukemia, would face that unthinkable scenario 3 times during the course of her treatment.
She said, well, do I die? No one had an answer for her, right? I didn't have an answer. So I just said, Abby, we're going to try to find it.
Laura enlisted hundreds of friends and family who called every children's hospital searching for the drug Abby needed.
It worked. And once we did that, I was haunted. I couldn't sleep.
Because countless other kids were being told their drugs weren't available. In fact, 75% of the 20 most essential pediatric cancer drugs have been short in the last 5 years.
These chemotherapy drugs, they're the backbones of curative and life-saving regimens for which we have no alternative. It is exceedingly rare that we can have an alternative.
Dr. Yoramanguru is a pediatric oncologist.
It's critical.
Unlike adults, he told us most kids with cancer, about 85%, can be cured, but it can't be done without the necessary drugs.
How is it possible that we run out of these critical care drugs for kids?
It's complicated. There's not a lot of drug companies that want to make them. They're not cheap to make, but they are reimbursed at a very low level.
Among them, methotrexate, used for kids with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, brain tumors, and leukemia. It's been in shortage since March. The most common childhood cancer is acute lymphoblastic leukemia, one that requires 10 drugs and often years to treat. 8 out of those 10 drugs have been in short supply over the last decade.
What's it like to tell a family, I think I can cure your child of cancer, but I don't have the drugs to do it?
It is one of the most frustrating and difficult discussions I've had, but you're handcuffed. You don't want to treat cancer with one hand behind your back. Cancer is hard.
The FDA and independent researchers have found these shortages caused relapses requiring more intensive, toxic chemotherapy, decreased enrollment in life-saving clinical trials, and patient deaths.
We can ensure no child will ask their parent, will I die if I don't get my medicine?
Using her expertise as a business professor specializing in supply chains, Bray started Angels for Change, connecting hospitals, drug makers, distributors, doctors, and patients to work together to end drug shortages with the help of lawmakers.
The question is, are we going to do it? I didn't know drug shortages existed until this happened to my child in 2019, but they did. 10 years before they had congressional hearings. So don't let this moment go away. Don't bring me back here in 10 years. We've got to do the work, and everyone has got to come to the table.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
And if you are looking for a job right now and your favorite holiday tradition is binging holiday movies, this may be the job for you. KBOTV.com is looking for a chief of cheer to watch 25 movies in 25 days. The chosen candidate will get to pick the movies and will rank them based on nostalgia, heartwarming, storytelling, and holiday cheer. While watching the film should be rewarding in itself, there's some serious cash involved that never hurts. The chief of cheer will get $2,500 and 1-year subscriptions to 7 streaming services. Ahead in our next half hour, holiday travel predictions, what to expect if you're traveling by plane, train, or car sometime this week. And later, new moms in the U.S. are not getting the medical care they need. Grim new numbers detail the scope of the problem. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now. You can catch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back.
The National Desk, America's News, now.
Looking for an alternative, where voters stand on electing a third-party candidate for president. Flying solo, research suggests more people are living alone. The place taking the top spot as the home of lone dwellers. Plus, back-to-school shots. The fact-check team investigates how many kids are opting out. From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend. The 2024 field may be far from set as retiring Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says he may run for president as an independent. Manchin says both parties have gone too far to the left and right, and as the National Desk chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, plenty of voters agree.
For those assuming 2024 will turn out as this two-man race, an alarming number of Americans are saying not so fast, including West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who's floating the idea of a third-party run, citing concerns about both Donald Trump.
The country would be in a horrible situation, challenging our democracy if he got reelected.
And President Biden.
He's not the person we thought that was getting elected, being a centrist and moderate. He's been pushed so far to the left.
He's not alone. A new Quinnipiac poll shows more than 7 in 10 independent voters want someone else in the race, and almost 6 in 10 Democrats. But only about 3 in 10 Republicans feel that way. A majority of them say they're satisfied with the current field.
It's significant that at this point, this many people are on the fence. I mean, this is a time where we've got 2 older gentlemen running for president who are not terribly popular. And so people are looking for something else.
Prompting scenes like this, reporters peppering Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson while on the Hill Wednesday.
Mr. Johnson, are you running for president?
But more serious consideration is being granted elsewhere, and nobody seeing it more than Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Kennedy is a force in the universe in this all of a sudden. I'll let you draw the conclusion why, but we also found that people who have least belief in government have the most belief in Kennedy.
And he, a skeptic of the election system, which he likened to the former Soviet Union.
The Communist Party was claiming that they had a democracy.
But the way they control the democracy is the party alone could designate who the nominees were.
Pollsters tell me it's young voters who seem most disheartened and are looking for a fresh horse who, even if that candidate doesn't win, could still dramatically alter the race. In Washington, Scott Thuman for the National Desk.
There's a new code of ethics at the U.S. Supreme Court. The justices agreed to it following criticism over undisclosed luxury trips, gifts, and questionable financial arrangements. All 9 justices signed the code. They say it largely represents a codification of principles that we have long regarded as governing our conduct. It's based on rules followed by lower court judges, but critics doubt its effectiveness without independent enforcement because the justices enforce the code themselves. Developing now. For the second year in a row, the U.S. got a D+ for its high preterm birth rate. A new report out this week from the March of Dimes says the rate of babies born before 37 weeks gestation dropped just 1% last year to 10.4. The report from the Infant and Maternal Health nonprofit gave 8 states in Puerto Rico a falling grade. No states earned an A. Almost 20,000 babies nationwide died before turning 1 last year, with the highest infant death rates in the South and Midwest. Being a new mom is hard enough, and now a startling new report found many are not getting the medical care they need after giving birth. The National Desk, Angelo details the impact.
Columbia University found that new moms delayed or completely went without getting needed medical care within 1 year of giving birth.
The U.S. is facing a maternal morbidity and mortality crisis. Earlier this year, the CDC releasing new numbers. In 2021, over 1,200 U.S. women died of maternal causes. That's up from 861 in 2020 and 754 in 2019.
What we know is that too many women die from pregnancy-related complications each year. And the increases that we saw from 2020 to 2021 were tragic.
You may think that labor and giving birth are the most dangerous parts of a pregnancy, but doctors say it's the period after giving birth when the most complications happen.
Over 50% of maternal mortality occurs in the postpartum period, which includes the period after giving birth until 12 months postpartum. And it's estimated that 4 out of 5 maternal deaths are preventable.
Dr. Heidi Allen and researchers from the Mailman School of Public Health at Columbia University compared mothers on Medicaid to those with commercial insurance, finding 1 in 4 new moms with Medicaid reported not seeking any health care in the year after giving birth, despite 12% saying they suffered from depression. And 14% said they had anxiety after delivering.
For people with Medicaid, childcare, having access to childcare, having access to transportation, being able to get off of work, to get to an appointment that's after hours or on the weekends, those are all common barriers that people experience.
40 states now offer a full year of Medicaid coverage after pregnancy. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Last year, the number of kindergartners who received vaccine exemptions reached an all-time high of 3%. I'm with Connor from the Fact Check team. Connor, every state offers exemptions for medical reasons, but what about religious exemptions?
Well, this is what I learned, Eugene. 45 states and Washington, D.C. will grant residents religious exemptions if it contradicts their beliefs. And then 15 states offer what's called personal belief exemptions for children whose parents don't want them vaccinated for personal, moral, or other beliefs. And of course, the criteria and requirements for those non-medical exemptions do vary state to state.
Sure. And what are America's views on these vaccines?
That's a good question. The majority of Americans still hold a positive view of childhood vaccines. A poll released earlier this year from Pew Research Center found 88% of Americans say the benefits outweigh the risks, compared to just 10% who say the risks outweigh the benefits. And this poll has had these same results since 2016. But I did find that the number of Americans that said children should be required to be vaccinated and in order to attend public school has dropped to 70%. That was closer to 80% in previous polling.
This topic picking up steam again with the COVID vaccines.
Right.
Thanks. And for more on this Factory Team topic, including links to Connor's sources, you want to scan that QR code you see on your screen or visit us at our website, thenationaldesk.com.
Developing now, AAA projects 55.4 million people will travel 50 miles or more this week for Thanksgiving. That number of travelers is a 2.3% increase from last year's and is the third highest since AAA began tracking holiday travel in 2000. The top 2 years were 2005 and 2019. Here's how they're getting where they're going. About 49.1 million Americans are expected to drive to their destination. 4.7 are expected to fly, and more than 1.5 million people will travel by other modes of transportation, and that includes going on a cruise or simply traveling by bus or train. Well, the holidays, they can be a lonely time for some Americans without friends or family close by. The National Desk Eugene Ramirez has more on the loneliness epidemic impacting some U.S. cities.
The holidays are a time for family and friends, but we are living in a time when many people feel lonely. With me tonight is Colin Zarnecki, researcher with chamberofcommerce.org, an online resource for small businesses providing how-tos and research reports. And Colin, your recent findings suggest that people in the U.S. are lonely. I want to you to tell me a little bit more about this research, specifically what you learned about those in Washington, D.C. That's pretty interesting.
Sure. Whether it's your neighbor, relative, or coworker, there's a good chance you know someone who lives alone. More than 36 million Americans across the country actually live alone, which is about 29% of all U.S. households. And we took a closer look at which cities have the most residents living alone. And like you mentioned, the D.C. metro area in particular tops the list for cities with the most people living alone.
Yeah, I will say there are a lot of young people in D.C. That might be a reason why people are getting married later and later these years. But the pandemic impacted just about everything, including human behavior. That could be a reason behind this. What other reasons did you find could be behind this loneliness?
Sure. Like you mentioned, a lot of people have been putting off major life milestones later on in life, like marriage. The average age to get married now for men is about 30 and women is in their late 20s. And then obviously pandemic played a huge factor in just geographic changes altogether. Where people work, how they work. We see this evolution of hybrid work, remote work, really changing the landscape in terms of where and how people are living and who they're living with.
Yeah, they're spending more time with people online than in person in many cases. We do have Thanksgiving next week, but is there an argument to be made that some people choose to be alone for the holidays, perhaps to avoid the travel chaos or family problems? You name the reason, but can it be a choice?
Sure. I think living alone obviously provides freedom, but it can also make you feel lonely at times. So it's sort of obviously one could be a personal choice or maybe a financial choice. Or like you mentioned too, heading out for the holidays can be a little stressful to say the least. So obviously staying in touch with friends and family, no matter where you are during the holidays or throughout the winter months is definitely crucial to just for your mental health overall.
Sure. This is fascinating, and everybody appreciates some alone time, but that song, everybody needs somebody sometime. Colin Zarnecki, thanks so much for your insights on this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Checking in on your money, those buying homes in the current market are older and wealthier. According to new data from the National Association of Realtors, the median income of home buyers this year is $107,000. Last year, it was $88,000. The median age for a repeat buyer is 58 years old. That's up significantly from 36 years old back in 1981. Still to come, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington from President Biden's meeting with Xi Jinping to protests over the Israel-Hamas war.
And welcome back. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day to report on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. The Bureau's correspondents are here with their insights on the stories they've been covering. New polling out this past week shows a majority of voters would like to see more candidates enter the presidential race. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman. This comes as it looks like third-party candidates could pull a significant number of voters away from Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Yeah, the opportunity is there, Steve. This new Quinnipiac University poll shows that more than 7 out of 10 independent voters and almost 6 out of 10 Democrats do want someone else on the ballot. They're not satisfied with the current slate out there. You contrast that with Republicans. About 3 in 10 Republicans would like to see someone else. The majority of that party polled. likes the options out there currently. The reason that's significant is because it does open a door for a third-party candidate to get in there. We already have some, but more who might be able to really chip away at what the mainstream, if you call them that, candidates are already getting from most people. And then if I can just read you a couple numbers real fast. They also did a matchup of 3 candidates, Trump, Biden, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They showed Trump at 38, Biden at 37, Kennedy at 21. The pollster told me that means that he is a presence, he is a force to be dealt with, and could affect the race. It's also why you're now hearing about Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who's not running again, thinking about putting together a run himself.
Yeah, and it's interesting about Kennedy. He's pulling some votes away from Biden, or at least Democratic base voters, like young voters, Hispanics, and black voters. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Meanwhile, protests related to the Israel-Hamas war taking place in Washington this past week. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins, there was a difference in tone between the protests. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, Dave, we had a few protests here in our nation's capital this week. Very different feels, though, at each one. So first, there was the pro-Israel march that happened on Tuesday. About 300,000 people came here to the National Mall. There was a permit. This was very well organized. And overall, not a lot of scuffles, really not a lot of nothing unexpected coming out of that protest. And then the following day, on Wednesday, outside of the DNC, there was quite the scuffle as some anti-Israel, pro-Palestine marchers went to make their voices heard outside of the Democratic National Committee's headquarters. They did a candlelight ceremony. They locked arms and blocked the exits in and out of the building, saying they wanted lawmakers to see their vigil and hear their calls for a ceasefire. At some point, this does appear to have turned violent. That's according to Capitol Police. 1 arrest was made. 6 police officers had minor injuries. But then the protesters also say that they sustained injuries. It's unclear who started the violence. Both the police and the protesters are blaming each other. But we did speak with one woman who was having dinner nearby. They were locked down. Police had to escort her out. So quite the scene there outside the DNC.
Yeah, and aside from the Middle East, China also at the forefront of the news this past week. National correspondent Atra Elnishaw, President Biden met with his Chinese counterpart where they agreed to battle the fentanyl crisis. What will that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, President Biden came out of that 4-hour meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping and said they came to a renewed understanding of how to curb the flow of fentanyl, precursor chemicals that make fentanyl, equipment that makes fentanyl from flowing into the Western Hemisphere. Now, according to the White House's fact sheet on this, the readout of what this actually looks like, the crux of it really is China committing to cracking down on existing laws and regulations about suppliers of the items I just mentioned. Now, that might not seem entirely effective, but I spoke to a senior researcher at Rand Corporation, Dave Luckey, who also used to work for the Department of Homeland Security, who said in a communist regime like the one that exists in China, when Xi declares something like this, it has a huge impact. In fact, he did something similar back in 2019, and that sent a message to industry across China that this is a real crackdown, that Xi means business about making China not appear to be a nation state that is a drug dealer, essentially, on the world stage. So David Luckey told me that even if there is moderate success with this new understanding, as Biden is putting it, he'd be happy because when that happened, it really helped curb the flow of fentanyl into the illicit drug supply chain globally. So it does seem to be something that could have the potential for real progress. Really not something people expected to see come out of that meeting.
Yeah, it's a huge crisis in this country. A lot of people are going to be looking to see what the effects are of this agreement. Atra, Kayla, Scott, thank you all for your great reporting and your hard work. Back to you.
Thank you. Developing now, a government shutdown has once again been averted, but the Pentagon is warning of major disruptions if they continue to operate under another stopgap bill. The resolution that passed Wednesday funds military construction through mid-January and the rest of the Defense Department until February. The move gives Congress a few more months to work on a full budget bill, but until then, the CR restricts any Pentagon program not previously authorized in the last budget. Officials warn that could have negative impacts on shipbuilding, training, and civilian contractors. Still ahead here, youth crime crisis. The Baltimore parent shocked to hear her child committed a robbery. Plus, bagel backlash. The bakery in Florida receiving threats for selling items to support Israel. This is the National Desk of America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From an officer killed in the line of duty in Texas to pro-Israel bagel backlash in Florida. We're taking the pulse of America. But first, parents are frustrated with crime influencing their kids in Baltimore, Maryland.
I worry, I wonder, we're not going to get that next phone call. What's going to happen next?
She got a phone call last week about this. Take a look. A woman in the Butchers Hill neighborhood in southeast Baltimore assaulted and robbed. Her car keys stolen as she walked down East Lombard Street near Patterson Park Avenue. The alarming incident caught on home security cameras. Police say the suspects, 12 and 14 years old. Police say the boys tried stealing the woman's car, but was unable to drive a stick shift. Police caught the boys, took them to the Baltimore Juvenile Justice Center, where DJS supervisors released the suspects within 2 hours without any charges filed, frustrating the victim.
The law, I'm pissed off at the law. This should never, and what if this could have ended really badly? If I hadn't have seen them behind me and turn, I could have hit my head. They had a screwdriver. They could have stabbed me if they really wanted to, you know? That's not okay.
I had no awareness that he was doing all these types of activities.
You wasn't aware of that?
I was not, and then when I did find out he was doing all these activities, that's when I started making phone calls and trying to get the help that he needs. I mean, something's got to give, because like I said, the rate he going, he not going to be here, the rate he keep going. He needs more discipline, more structure.
The chaos began when Austin police officers first responding went into the home they were called to and were shot at but not hit. Tragedy struck about an hour later when the SWAT team made entry and was also shot at, but this time 2 officers were hit and 1 officer would tragically not make it.
I'm really just actually kind of shocked.
It's a huge tragedy. It's a big loss for our team and for the community. And I just hope that my prayers are with the families that lost this brave officer.
It's a devastating, situation. Don't want anybody to die, so it's super unfortunate.
Austin City Council member Mackenzie Calley says she was devastated to see the news on social media. And after hearing exactly what happened from the assistant city manager, she went straight to the hospital. There, an emotional sight. Calley said officers lined the hallways of the hospital as the fallen officer with an American flag draped over him was wheeled from the emergency room to the medical examiner's office.
For the most part, customers have been eating it up, buying the bagels by the dozens.
People were loving what we were doing. The proceeds of all the blue and white dough goes directly to the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee.
But others are starting to lose their appetite.
And it was really up until yesterday that we started to feel a little bit of a negative backlash, and mostly only on the internet.
As tensions rise overseas, they are also rising here at home. The bagel shop now being flooded with negative reviews and social media posts.
They were putting like 1 star. Poison in the one. I believe one of them said there's poison in the bagels. Other ones were just saying, "Don't go here, bad place."
Local resident Albert Mammon says he saw those comments online and knew he had to swing by and express his support.
To me, it is important to have that ability to support the people who are supporting people of our homeland.
Buying a blue and white bagel of his own, Albert says he worries about the growing anti-Semitism as protests turn violent and videos surface of people ripping down flyers of Israeli civilians kidnapped by Hamas.
A Massachusetts woman was able to escape after a car suddenly drove through her home last Friday night, barely missing her. The National Desk, Molly Levine, joins us now with the story.
Thank you, God, I can't believe that I'm okay. It was like a miracle.
Alice Garvin, lucky to be alive.
I just finished watching Hallmark, and I don't know, it was just before 7 o'clock, so I was relaxing.
What started as a normal.
I put my pajama bottoms on.
And comfortable.
Because you know how it gets tight around the waist.
Friday night at home.
And the next thing I knew...
took a turn for the worse.
It was like a bomb came. It was awful.
As a car came barreling through her home on Bark Street in Swansea.
I couldn't believe the sound. The sound was tremendous. And I thought, oh my God, what's happening?
Narrowly missing her.
The car was right there.
She was sitting in this red chair, pictured here.
I was in my Lazy Boy recliner, which I love. And evidently it pushed me forward. He must have hit it, pushed me forward, and I guess it protected me.
That piece of furniture.
I always say that chair is very comfortable. It fits just right. This is a little big, but it fits just right.
Wedged in between Alice and the car.
Tried to climb out, and I went over debris all over the place, tried to get to my sofa. The whole part of that house was all open.
Police say the driver swerved to avoid another car, but didn't release any other details. The driver and Alice both had minor injuries.
He came right up the front steps and wasn't even invited.
Just glad that she's doing okay. That was Molly Levine reporting. Alice is staying with her daughter as her home is currently unlivable. She hopes to one day return to the house she has owned since 1965. And that'll be all for us on the weekend edition of the National Desk, America's News Now. Don't forget, you can catch us live from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Check your local listings, and you can watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thanks for watching the weekend edition of the National Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and from all of us here, have a great week.